Our players don't complain very much at all about anything. They're not a bad lot. They're reasonably intelligent. They realise the problems we've got in football. We talk to them, we explain what can go wrong and what can't, so they don't complain too much. They do get tired, like we all do. You get tired of interviewing me, and I get tired on occasion.
I never get tired of interviewing you, actually.
Thank you. I never get tired of talking to you, but we all get tired.
Yeah.
We play too many matches in this country. This is the, answer to your question. And it's about time somebody sat down and said, we're going to stop it, we're going to change it, and we're going to cut the season down.
Well, Norman Burtonshaw from the Referees Association, he is of course one of our top Football League referees, has said that the referees intend to begin this season as they started last season and not ended it. That is being very tough. What do you think about this, Brian?
I think it's an indictment against the referees, having started something and found it was very successful or found it was the right thing. For them not to have continued it is a terrible indictment against them. If they're now getting back to what they were, if they think what they were was right, then we're absolutely delighted at Derby, because it's one of the reasons we won the league championship.
Because of the referees?
Because they're tightened up. We're allowed to play football. We're not a physical side in any shape or form, purely a skillful side. And as I say, the first 3 or 4 months of the season, where they were operating very tightly, that allowed us to play football, and it brought a new dimension to the First Division Championship. First time Derby won it, it's opened the door for everybody. So Burtonshaw's an absolute disgrace to turn around and say, we intend to start where we started last year but didn't finish last year. If he starts like he started last year, I hope it continues for 9 months, him and all his colleagues.
Brian, what do you think about the new code of fouls that players will have to adhere to the disciplinary commissions next season?
I don't think it could be worse than the system we've been operating at the moment. The system we've had for the last, I don't know how long, has been a disgrace.
So you welcome the new system?
I welcome any system. We'll try anything, because if something's a disgrace, you'll try anything to try and improve it.
Well, I know that you're not a bookmaker, but I'd like to quote some of the early bookmakers' odds on the First Division Championship for next season. Leeds are favourites at 7-2, Liverpool 5-1, Manchester City 7-1, and you're joint fourth with Arsenal 8-1. What do you think about these odds?
Well, if people are wanting to bet on anything, I would say don't, because not only am I not a bookmaker, I'm not a betting man either, so please keep your money in your pockets, whether it's dogs, horses, football teams. Bookmakers are not very often wrong, although they were wrong last year. That's why so many in business. I would love to see them all off, out of work, in the dole queues. I personally would. But having said all this, I think they were wrong last year, which they turned out to be wrong, because we were 40-1 at the beginning of the season. They've dropped one clanger, they've dropped another one this year in naming us fourth favourites.
It was a great finish, in fact, Ryan, wasn't it, at the top of the first 2 divisions, and probably the third as well, with the second place in the third division. Do you see it as being tight as that this year?
Oh, it'll be very tight, yes. The only difference perhaps will be the first division will split into 2 halves. One half will get away from the bottom half, and it'll be, it'll be nearly like 2 leagues in actual fact, some weeks when the fixtures coincide with this. Top teams will be playing top teams, bottom teams will be playing bottom teams. But if you're talking specifically about the top 4, it'll be as tight as it was last year, if not tighter. It could be decided on goal average.
What about transfer fees, Brian?
They will keep going up, like everything else, like your wages and like mine, like the cost of bringing this crew here. Inevitably, everything keeps going up. It's a vicious circle, we're all in it. As long as we don't get too greedy about everything, then we've all got a chance. But the transfer fees will keep going up like the loaf of bread keeps going up, plus the Prime Minister's salary.
Well, last season, I think with a lot of justification, you pushed McFarlane and Todd, so who do we look out for in the Derby side this season?
Colin Todd's had 1 cap at the age of 23, which is an indictment against the game and the people who run it. He should have had more than that. They will establish themselves. Who you got to look out for this season? We played a young boy at right back at the last match of the season called Steve Powell, at 16-year-old.
The Texaco Cup.
He played there as well, yes. But the Liverpool one was the big one, the last match of the season. We had to beat them to stay in with a chance. Without being biased, of course, he's a superb player, but Bill Shankly will express himself more freely than I can about him. Young Steve will come into the reckoning. We have another young fullback called Alan Lewis, 17. We've got one or two irons in the fire, but we don't like talking about what might happen. We like talking about what will happen and what we can guarantee. And we can guarantee a successful side at Derby, a side always shoving for honours, a side who will entertain, and one or two reasonable interviews.